He sent a letter to a newspaper and demanded they print it, or more would die. Tonight you'll see how 5 murders, 4 ciphers, and 1 taunting signature broke California. And the chilling detail investigators noticed in 1969 that nobody could explain until decades later. Northern California, late summer 1968. The hills around the San Francisco Bay are golden, dry, and quiet. Couples drive out to remote lovers' lanes. Teenagers park near reservoirs. Families head to the coast. The region feels safe in that uniquely Californian way, suspended between the optimism of the late 60s and something darker rising underneath. By the end of the following year, that feeling will be gone. A man, or perhaps a shadow pretending to be a man, will have carved his name into the state's memory with a black hood, a strange crosshair symbol, and a series of letters mailed to newspapers that begin with 3 of the most chilling words in American crime history. This is me. The case is the Zodiac Killer. 5 confirmed victims, 2 survivors, 4 ciphers, dozens of suspects, and more than half a century later, no name, no face, no resolution. Tonight we walk through every confirmed attack, every cryptogram, every suspect theory that has refused to die, and we try to understand why this case, more than almost any other, refuses to let go of the American imagination. It begins on the night of December 20th, 1968, on Lake Herman Road, a 2-lane stretch outside Benicia, California. David Faraday is 17, Betty Lou Jensen is 16. It is their first real date. They park in a gravel turnout known as a local makeout spot. Sometime around 11 that night, another vehicle pulls in beside them. A man steps out with a flashlight and a semi-automatic pistol chambered in .22 long rifle. Betty Lou tries to run. She makes it about 30 feet before 5 shots drop her to the pavement. David is shot once, behind the left ear at close range, still partially inside the car. A passing motorist finds the bodies minutes later. There are no witnesses, no fingerprints worth tracing, no clear motive. The local sheriff's office in Solano County has nothing but spent shell casings and 2 dead teenagers. The case sits cold for almost 7 months. Nobody yet knows they are looking for a serial killer. Nobody yet knows the man who pulled the trigger is just getting started. July 4th, 1969. Blue Rock Springs Park, just a few miles from the first killing. Darlene Ferrin, 22, a waitress at a local diner, drives into the parking lot just before midnight with Michael Mageau, 19. They sit in her Corvair talking. A car pulls up behind them, leaves, then returns. A man approaches with a high-powered flashlight. Without a word, he opens fire through the passenger window. Mageau is hit 3 times. Darlene is hit multiple times in the torso. The shooter walks back to his car, hears Mageau moan, returns, and fires 4 more rounds. Darlene dies en route to the hospital. Mageau somehow survives. At about 12:40 in the morning, a man calls the Vallejo Police Department from a payphone less than a mile from the police station. In a flat, deliberate voice, he says, "I want to report a double murder." He gives the location. Then he says, "I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." The dispatcher recognizes the importance immediately. The Lake Herman Road case has just been connected to a new murder by the killer himself. But the police still do not have a name to give him. That changes on August 1st, 1969. 3 letters arrive almost simultaneously at the San Francisco Chronicle, the Vallejo Times-Herald, and the San Francisco Examiner. Each contains specific, unreleased details about the 2 attacks. Each demands that the newspapers print the enclosed message on the front page, or the letter says he will go on a kill rampage. And each letter is signed not with a name, but with a symbol, a circle with a cross through it, a crosshair, a gun sight. With each letter is a third of a cryptogram, 408 characters of strange symbols, mathematical signs, Greek letters, Morse fragments, and reversed alphabet pieces. He calls himself, in a follow-up letter, the Zodiac. The Chronicle prints, the other papers follow. And then a schoolteacher in Salinas named Donald Harden and his wife Betty sit down at their kitchen table with the cipher, a pencil, and a hunch. Betty suggests the killer's ego would make him start the message with the word I. Within a week, they crack it. The decoded text reads, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest." The message ends with garbled letters that have never been satisfactorily explained. But the cipher is solved. The Zodiac has a voice. and he is enraged that a couple of amateurs beat the FBI and naval intelligence to it. September 27, 1969. Lake Berryessa, Napa County. Bryan Hartnell, 20, and Cecelia Shepard, 22, are picnicking on a small peninsula. A man emerges from behind trees. He wears a black executioner-style hood with the crosshair symbol stitched onto his chest. He carries a revolver. He claims he is an escaped convict who needs their car and money to get to Mexico. He hands Cecelia a plastic clothesline and instructs her to tie Bryan up. Then he ties her. And then, without warning, he draws a long knife and stabs Bryan 6 times in the back and Cecelia 10 times in the back, the stomach, and the groin. He walks calmly back to their car and uses a black felt pen to write on the door. 3 dates: December 20th, 68, July 4, 69, Sept 27th, 69, and the crosshair. Cecelia dies 2 days later in the hospital. Bryan, again somehow, survives and describes the hood, the voice, the calm, almost rehearsed way the killer spoke. Minutes after the attack, the Zodiac calls the Napa Police Department from a payphone in downtown Napa. The receiver is left dangling. A palm print is lifted. It matches no one in any database, then or now. 2 weeks later, the Zodiac steps out of the Lover's Lanes and into the heart of San Francisco. October 11, 1969. Paul Stine, a 29-year-old Yale graduate driving a cab to pay his way through a doctorate at San Francisco State, picks up a fare in the theater district. The passenger asks to be driven to the corner of Washington and Maple in the wealthy Presidio Heights neighborhood. When the cab stops, the passenger pulls a 9mm handgun and shoots Stine once in the head. 3 teenagers across the street watch from a second-story window. They see the killer wipe down the cab, take Stine's wallet and keys, and tear off a piece of his blood-stained shirt. They call the police while it is happening. A patrol car is dispatched. But here is where the case takes a turn that conspiracy theorists have argued about for 50 years. The initial radio dispatch describes the suspect as a black male. The witnesses had said white. 2 officers, responding to the call, actually pass a stocky white man walking calmly on Jackson Street, just blocks from the crime. They do not stop him. They are looking for someone else. 3 days later, the Chronicle receives a new letter. Inside is a swatch of Paul Stine's blood-stained shirt, proof of authorship, and a threat. The Zodiac writes that he is going to change his pattern. School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot out the front tire, and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. The Bay Area panics. Governors and mayors hold press conferences. Sheriff's departments place armored vehicles along school bus routes. Children ride to school under guard. Composite sketches based on the Presidio Heights witnesses are printed in every newspaper. A round-faced white man, glasses, short brown hair, crew-cut, heavy-set, in his late 30s or 40s. It is the most famous and most useless sketch in American criminal history. Useless because thousands of men in Northern California looked exactly like that. Famous because the Zodiac himself, in his next letters, seems to revel in the attention. He writes more. He sends more ciphers. A 340-character cryptogram, known as Z340, mailed in November 1969. A 13-character cipher he claims contains his name. A 32-character cipher tied to a location he claims has a buried bomb. Some are solved, most are not. The Z340 will resist every codebreaker, every computer, every cryptanalyst in the world for 51 years. Who was the Zodiac? Over the decades, dozens of suspects have been named. Some are absurd. Some are unsettlingly plausible. The most famous is Arthur Leigh Allen, a former elementary school teacher fired for inappropriate behavior with children, who lived in Vallejo, owned the same type of typewriter, knew the Lake Berryessa area intimately, wore a Zodiac brand watch with the crosshair logo, and had been named to police by a former friend, Don Cheney, who claimed Allen had described in detail a plan to kill couples in lovers' lanes, write taunting letters to police, and sign them Zodiac. Allen was searched. Police found bloody knives in his trailer. He was the only suspect ever placed in a formal lineup, where Mike Mageau, the surviving Blue Rock Springs victim, identified him with high confidence in 1991. But Allen's fingerprints did not match the prints lifted from the cab. His handwriting did not match the letters, according to the document examiners of the time. His DNA, extracted decades later from saliva on the letter stamps, did not match the partial profile the FBI developed. Arthur Leigh Allen died in 1992. To his last day, he denied any involvement. Other suspects have surfaced in waves. There is Earl Van Best Jr., named by a man who claims to be his abandoned son, the journalist Gary Stewart, in a book that argues the handwriting is identical. There is Lawrence Kane, identified by one surviving witness. There is Ross Sullivan, a reclusive librarian obsessed with codes, who lived near the first murder site. There is Richard Gaikowski, a journalist whose voice an operator believed matched the Zodiac's phone call. In 2021, a self-styled team of cold case investigators calling themselves the Case Breakers announced they had identified the killer as a deceased Air Force veteran named Gary Francis Poste, based on facial scar comparisons and alleged anagrams in the letters. The FBI did not endorse the finding. Most professional investigators dismissed it. The case remained open. Each new suspect feels for a moment like the answer. None of them ever stick. And then, in December 2020, the silence of half a century cracks. A team of 3 amateur code breakers, an American software engineer named David Orenchak, an Australian mathematician named Sam Blake, and a Belgian programmer named Jarl van Eyck, announced they have solved the Z340 cipher. The message had been sitting unread on a million bookshelves and websites since 1969. The trick was that the Zodiac had used a diagonal reading pattern combined with a homophonic substitution. Once decoded, the message read in part, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, the slaves I am collecting for my afterlife." The FBI confirmed the solution. It contained no name. It contained no new clue to identity. But it confirmed something investigators had long suspected. The Zodiac was a man obsessed not with murder itself, but with the audience for his murder. He wrote to be read. He killed to be feared. The medium was the message. Which brings us to the questions that never go away. Why did the killings stop? The last letter generally agreed to be authentic was mailed in 1974, although disputed letters surfaced for years afterward. Did the Zodiac die? Was he imprisoned for another crime under another name? Did he simply lose interest, age out, move away? Some investigators believe he never stopped, that other unsolved Northern California murders in the 70s bear his fingerprint. Others believe he carefully calibrated his retirement, watching the panic he created from a quiet living room somewhere in suburban California, growing old and ordinary, dying in a hospital bed without ever telling a soul. The crosshair, the hood, the cipher, the voice on the phone, the bloody piece of taxi driver's shirt mailed in an envelope, the children on school buses guarded by armed officers, all of it filed away forever in a metal cabinet in a sheriff's office. And the strangest thing of all is this. In a country where DNA has solved cases from the 1940s, where the Golden State Killer was identified decades after he stopped, where genealogy databases routinely break open the unbreakable, the Zodiac remains. He licked his stamps, he licked his envelopes. The samples exist, they have been tested, retested, contaminated, debated, and still, after every test, he steps back into the dark. Maybe that is the real signature of the Zodiac, not the crosshair, not the ciphers, not the hood or the gun or the taunting letters. The real signature is the absence at the center of the case. A name-shaped hole that California has been staring into for over 50 years, waiting for something to fill it. 5 families who buried children, 2 survivors who carried the weight of his voice for the rest of their lives, a region that lost something it never got back. Somewhere, in a yearbook photo, in a military service record, in a tax filing from 1971, in a name on a tombstone in a quiet cemetery, the Zodiac is hiding in plain sight. He always has been. And the cipher he left behind was never really the 408 characters, or the 340, or the 13. The cipher is the man himself. And the longer it goes unsolved, the more clearly you can hear what he was really telling us all along. That the worst monsters are the ones who walk away. That sometimes the law does not win. That a man with a flashlight, a hood, and a typewriter can outlast every investigator who ever chased him. And that somewhere in California tonight, the answer is already buried, and the question is still waiting. If this case got under your skin, subscribe to Dark Cases. Every week we go deeper into the files that history tried to forget. Hit the bell, because the next one may be the case that finally breaks open. Stay in the dark with us.